From the cooks inside Rikers Island jail who work alongside detainees.
There's a distance between us. Here you can't treat them as friends.
To the bakers who work overnight to supply thousands of New York street carts.
They don't really understand what we got to deal with in order to get here to be convenient for them.
To the workers behind America's biggest fortune cookie factory. These are the people feeding America's most crowded city.
Rikers Island is a complex of 10 jail buildings and the second largest jail in America. It sits in the waters between the Bronx and Queens. Planes take off from LaGuardia Airport right next door. The only way onto the island is this skinny, nearly mile-long bridge. Many chefs take public transport to get to work, passing through half a dozen security gates on their way to the kitchen.
The first time I felt nervous is when I heard that gate close behind me. That's the only time I was nervous.
Inside, it doesn't feel any less like a jail. There are cameras everywhere. All of them are monitored from the guard's office. 8 officers watch the feed, guard the doors, and search every food delivery for contraband. People in custody, or PICs, can't touch the food. They're only allowed to wash dishes, clean, and push food wagons. Most people held at Rikers haven't been convicted of a crime. They're awaiting trial. Those who are serving time are sentenced to a year or less. Only chefs are allowed to touch the knives. They're chained to heavy machinery at all times.
There's a reason for the knife on the chain. It's for security.
When chefs need to change stations, they get a guard from the office to unlock the knife and move it.
When you first start, it's a little awkward. Like the chain is either touching your hand or something, but you get used to it.
But officers also keep watch over objects that might seem harmless, like lids, which go straight into a caged trash can.
It's a lot of things. There's a lot of sharp objects here, a lot of things that could be used as a weapon.
Metal spoons and ladles have to be checked out from a locked cabinet in the guard's office. Today, the chefs are working on a big batch of pepper steak.
In a place like this, food is very important. I like to make other people happy. It's like handmade, but it's still people. Just they make mistakes, but they still gotta eat.
Taking it in. Good morning, Kat.
Nadine Leach had been incarcerated at Rikers for 17 months at the time of filming. She was a chef before serving time here, but she's only allowed to push food carts and can't use her cooking skills.
I wish I could. I think I'd be making some good stuff if I could cook, yeah.
Why did you want a job in the kitchen as opposed to other places?
The money, and I like to serve people. It's a privilege because you have to stay ticket free, you can't be in trouble, you have to be like safe, like a safety net. Reedy, good morning.
The city pays incarcerated kitchen workers like Nadine $1.45 an hour, even though minimum wage is $17 in New York City. The federal minimum wage was introduced in the 1930s, but courts have ruled that it doesn't apply to incarcerated workers because they aren't considered employees under federal labor law. The agency that runs the jail, whether that's state, city, or federal, sets the pay rates for detainees who work. New York City's Department of Correction said in a statement, the wage for each position was determined by a DOC leadership committee that assessed the number of PICs needed in each facility.
In other states, they don't pay them at all.
That's Ruvain Blau, a criminal justice reporter and the author of Rikers, an oral history.
Studies have shown that if they do get money and they have money to come out, they're a much more successful transition.
And what do you do with the money that you think?
I save it because I have grandchildren, so I take care of my grandchildren, so I make sure they're okay.
PICs at Rikers aren't required to work, but Nadine says she clocks in every day for 56 hours a week just to stay busy.
Me, I don't take a day off because I don't like idle time. Idle time is the devil time.
Back in the kitchen, chefs face other challenges, including a ban on certain ingredients like salt. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg cut it out of the Rikers diet as part of a citywide nutrition initiative that took effect in 2014. Chefs can use spices and soup bases to add flavor. But detainees have other methods of spicing things up, like with ramen seasoning.
Or the oodles and noodle pack, they got the seasoning in it. Just jazz it up. Make it comfortable. Or throw some cheese on it.
PICs can buy ramen from the commissary, a shop for people inside the jail. But for many, the commissary is expensive.
The people in Rikers Island are not, generally a wealthy group of people. And, these dollars make or break, a family or, somebody locked up there.
In 2024, a $33 million no-bid contract went through for a company called Keefe to stock the commissary. The contract said commissary prices were supposed to be in line with those at local stores. But a study that Rouvain led in 2025 found that many products were pricier than they were supposed to be. In a comment, the DOC said the prices being offered are comparable to local New York City area stores. If there is a product that is too expensive, the department can remove it. For many detainees, the kitchen is their only source of food. Much of it arrives in cans, including veggies, and frozen like the meat. Jamac, a Jersey City company, got a nearly $1.2 million contract to supply meat for New York City's Department of Correction. Cremoland, another Jersey company, has a $673,000 contract with the city to provide dairy products to its prisons. You'll find its milk jugs in many bodegas around the city, too. Despite working with limited ingredients, chefs in Rikers Kitchens still have to feed over 7,000 people in one sitting. The day we visited, they were preparing large batches of tartar sauce for tomorrow's fish, and that pepper steak, a favorite here.
It's fast-paced, it's a lot going on at all times, but it's organized. Every section of the kitchen, everybody know their role, so everything is done smoothly.
But this operation is only getting more expensive. In 2024, a DOC spokesperson said the annual food budget at Rikers was about $19 million, but the actual costs were expected to climb to about $23 million, or roughly $9 per meal per detainee. The Department of Corrections said this is because the cost of living for nearly everything in New York City is more expensive compared to other states. Despite this high price tag, Nadine says the meals are hit or miss. What do you think about the food here?
Disgusting. It depends on the meal. Like that chili, again, get jiggy with it. But everything else is pretty decent. Can't complain.
Even though chefs are required to cook recipes mandated by the city, many still take pride in the work. What do you think of the food that you make here? Is it good?
It's good. Once you love cooking, everything you do, you have to do it from deep down inside. So I go around, make sure my cooks, they're doing the best to put it out there because someone got to eat it.
Early on, some of the food at Rikers came from the island itself. In the 1920s, before it became a modern jail, Rikers Island was a city-owned penal farm where incarcerated people were required to grow food and raise livestock for the jail and other New York City institutions. A meal might have included asparagus, lima beans, and pork. When the modern jail complex opened in the early 1930s, Rikers shifted to bulk food production. In the 1950s, it had a chicken coop, a 200-acre farm that provided inmates with veggies, and a bakery, pumping out 2 million loaves a year. But the population was growing, and poor sanitation plagued the jail. In 1959, about 100 people got sick from eating bad boiled tongue. 40 ended up in the prison hospital. In the 1970s, grilled chicken was a favorite among PICs, but they also might have eaten liver or mutton. In the early 70s, William Vanden Heuvel, chairman of the Board of Correction, invited a New York Times food critic to try the city's prison food.
He knew what the outcome was going to be, and he was trying to make a point. Why are we spending all this money to serve, terrible food? It was, for lack of a better term, it was a stunt, but it worked, and the food really changed. They kind of really improved what they were serving.
In 1980, inspectors began checking the temperature of the food to improve food safety, and chefs served pork chops. In the 90s, there was still a farm and a bakery. A meal might have included hot dogs or oxtail. Carrot cake, served at Christmas, was a hit. In the 2010s, Mayor Bloomberg led an initiative to make the food healthier and cheaper in the city's jails. He not only cut salt, but reduced carbs from menus and added more vegetables. Bloomberg's influence is still seen today in the food spooned into hotel pans and loaded up onto wagons.
I'm checking the wagon according to what it's supposed to have in the wagon for the meal today.
Each pan serves about 25 people.
The men get a few more ounces than the women. The women get less ounces. Everything.
That's rude.
No, but we always make sure there's enough food to go around.
We caught up with the wagons at the Rose M. Singer Center, the women's facility. 15 PICs unload them from the truck, including Nadine.
I'm looking for three. Where the three? 3 East End.
They sort the wagons based on which of the 8 housing units they'll head to. Officers then check the wagons for any damage. They're looking for chipped off plastic that could be used as a weapon or contraband.
You just never know. So just to check, you just still got to do security.
Nadine is one of the PICs approved to deliver the carts for mealtimes.
I wake up happy every day, so I want to be happy. And this right here is like my sanctuary. So when I come here, it don't feel like I'm in prison. in jail. It just feel like I'm at my restaurant and I'm serving people. But then the reality comes when I go back and then be like, oh, I'm here. But this is my sanctuary, so I come here to get away from everything else.
But even in her sanctuary, she's patted down before she goes out for a delivery.
That's their job. They have to do it. They doing their job. I'm doing my time. It's 2 different worlds, but they don't treat me like an inmate or PC or PIC, whatever. They treat me like a human, like me human.
It's a delicate relationship between PICs, chefs, and officers in here.
There's a distance between us. Here you can't treat them as friends. You know why they're here.
Now you be buddies and they get complacent and they start asking for things.
Do you ask people what they've done?
No, sometimes they just volunteer the information to me.
Sometimes I do, but I don't expect to get the good answer at all times, you know. I don't really judge them, but I treat them with respect. Because you have to treat them with respect. They're humans.
But a lot of people like tend to know your case and then they turn down their nose to you because of your case or something like that. And I don't feel that's right because only God could judge you. I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like I matter.
No matter how familiar a detainee becomes, officers say they can't let their guard down. When they've been here longer, do you feel like you can relax a little bit around them?
Still, you never know. You get too relaxed, you just never know. So you can't.
Nah, there's only one. Yeah. Go out?
An officer follows Nadine at all times as she pushes the cart down the long hallways to the women's housing units.
Good morning. How you doing?
Marinara.
Yes, beets, salad, and this is tuna. This is tuna fish.
Nadine's also approved to serve up the food.
You're like a fairy godmother of food and stuff.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Everybody smile. I always like them to be happy.
Today's lunch is tuna salad and pasta salad, served at 11 a.m.
Breakfast is like 5:30.
Like 5 a.m. is so early.
Because we have courts.
Every day, hundreds of detainees at Rikers are bussed off-site for court appearances. Meal times are built around these departures.
And that process involves getting woken up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning and then dragged to court. And sometimes it's for like a minor hearing and you're stuck in a bullpen all day.
Bullpens are holding areas inside courthouses. While detainees wait, they might get a sandwich for lunch.
Peanut butter and jelly, cheese, bologna, salami. And guess what? When you come back to the facility, a lot of times you've missed your meal.
Dinner is served as early as 4 p.m.
And then they have to constantly do this sort of cycle of getting woken up, spending the entire day in a bullpen, and getting this disgusting food. A lot of times people are just exhausted.
In October 2019, the City Council voted to close Rikers for good by 2027, citing years of violence and unmanageable conditions. The city agreed to open 4 new, smaller jails in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx, which are currently under construction. Together, they're designed to hold 4,160 detainees. But in 2025, Rikers' population alone reached nearly 7,000, its highest level in 6 years. An independent commission said Rikers Island is unlikely to close by the city's 2027 deadline.
Because of the delays in construction, right now the earliest that might happen is 2031.
Rouvain said it would be easier to get food to the borough jails than to Rikers Island. The facilities would also be closer to detainees' court hearings and more accessible to visitors. And it's a plan the city's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has endorsed. Before Rikers shuts down completely, a new menu is set to shake things up. In 2024, New York City received a $100,000 grant to develop healthier, plant-based menu options at Rikers Island, including dishes such as chana masala and spinach artichoke pasta.
I'm excited about it because we had a little bit of training on it, and to me it is so good. My curry chickpeas, I can't wait. I can't wait. It is so good.
Something Mr. Ajita, who's from Guyana, is most excited about.
Oh, you know, Guyana's curry. We do curry, we do pepper pot, we do cook-up rice, yeah.
The city's tapped nonprofit Hot Bread Kitchen to develop the new menus, so they would be low in sodium, plant-forward, and scalable. But Nadine isn't entirely convinced.
Our meat, they're trying to take the meat from us. They don't want us to eat meat no more. But I think it should be a choice.
Because in here, a meal can mean everything.
When they come to you and they can tell you, you know, I had a good breakfast or I had a good lunch, it's really nice. So it's important to whatever you do, you put that love into it.
3 meals a day. It's important for everybody. I want to eat.
This factory in Queens, New York, is America's largest producer of fortune cookies.
This is the inheritance from my Chinese American ancestors, and I feel fortunate to be a part of it.
Norman Wong is the CEO of Wonton Food. He helped transform his dad's small noodle business into the hidden backbone of America's Chinese restaurant industry. It supplies thousands of restaurants with noodles, fried wontons, and cookies. And staff write all the fortunes themselves.
I mean, the whole reason we're the largest fortune cookie manufacturer in the world is because they don't make it in China. They don't eat fortune cookies in China.
In fact, many of the most popular dishes on Chinese restaurant menus were invented in the US. Through the 20th century, chefs made cheap, crowd-pleasing foods like chop suey and General Tso's chicken for American palates.
美式中餐呢，它就是给美国人吃的。
Meanwhile, traditional dishes like Peking duck struggled to catch on with non-Chinese Americans.
Being Chinese, people didn't understand your culture, your community, your food.
But now, a new wave of Chinese restaurants is betting that Americans are finally ready for flavors that rarely left Chinatown. Transita, a 162-year-old Beijing chain, opened its first New York City location in 2025. It takes days for chefs to prepare its famous Peking duck, which sells for $128.
Someone asked me if I had a fortune cookie for them. And then I'm like, not here.
So why does America have more Chinese restaurants than McDonald's and Burger King combined? And why did Americans take so long to embrace classic Chinese dishes? The oldest running Chinese restaurant in America is tucked away in the small mountain town of Butte, Montana, known as the richest hill on Earth. The name came from its massive copper wealth, which drew Chinese immigrants to the city for mining work in the late 1800s. But the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act and the discrimination it fueled pushed many businesses to stop hiring Chinese Americans. So some immigrants created their own. When Jerry Tam's ancestors opened Pekin Noodle Parlor in 1911, it had an illegal gambling ring, an opium den hidden in the basement.
This is one of the gambling tables where a shotgun would be mounted underneath it in case anyone was caught stealing. There was barrels of opium. They said street value of it was over $50,000 to $200,000.
Underground tunnels gave people a safe passageway and kept these illegal businesses out of sight.
Same as Chinese, you can't be a black person running around Butte, Montana. So the first African-American nightclub in Butte, Montana is through that door.
Upstairs in the kitchen, Jerry's ancestors served a dish that was just taking off in the US, chop suey. The name comes from the Cantonese phrase zap suey, which means miscellaneous leftovers.
The Chinese restaurant in any city or state took the leftover tidbits of food, mixed it all together, created its own natural gravy and placed it over hard noodles, soft noodles. It was just what was available to us at the time.
At that time, many Americans were boycotting Chinese restaurants. But dishes like chop suey won over customers by blending new flavors with familiar ingredients.
It was the first national cuisine for mass consumption for the nation. So in that sense, it's a predecessor to American fast food.
By 1965, the U.S. had ended immigration quotas based on race and repealed the Chinese Exclusion Act. Meanwhile, Americans were starting to accept traditional Chinese flavors.
East meets West as a handshake bridges 16,000 miles.
A turning point came in 1972 when Richard Nixon traveled to Beijing, the first time an American president had visited China in 23 years. Americans watched Nixon on TV, eating traditional dishes like Peking duck. In the years that followed, the dish became more widely accepted in the U.S., alongside other regional cuisines such as Sichuan hot pot. Chinese restaurants across the U.S. reported spikes in sales, and it was estimated that a new one was opening every week in New York City. Americanized Chinese food stayed popular as chefs introduced new hit dishes in the 70s, like General Tso's chicken.
They felt that Americans would like these kind of stronger flavors like sweet or sour.
In 1973, Norman Wong's dad, Ching Sun Wong, founded Wonton Food Inc. in New York City's Chinatown to meet spiking demand for ingredients like noodles.
His uncle told him in Hong Kong, like way back, he said, as long as you hold on to this craft and skill of making noodles, you'll always be able to make a living.
He produced other Chinese restaurant staples like fried wontons and wrappers for dishes like spring rolls. But later on, his most popular product became the fortune cookie.
The origin of fortune cookies, just like the origin of pizza, it's shrouded in, mystery. I don't know if we'll ever figure it out.
Multiple Chinese and Japanese families claim to have invented them, with origins dating back to the 1800s.
We believe that fortune cookies were invented on the West Coast in California by Chinese Americans and then slowly moved to all the Chinese American restaurants in the country.
In the late 1950s, an estimated 250 million fortune cookies were being produced each year by dozens of companies. By the 80s, the treats were served with takeout orders at chains like Manchu Wok and Panda Express, as Chinese food became America's most popular ethnic cuisine. That same decade, Norman's dad bought a small fortune cookie factory. And by 2013, Wonton Food Inc. had hundreds of clients and 5 factories. Today, the company supplies tens of thousands of restaurants around the world and is America's top fortune cookie producer.
Our fortune cookie machines are actually faster than what you can get outside, so we're not going to sell those machines to anybody else.
Many of these machines are designed to tackle a challenging task, making cookies with the perfect crispy shell that won't easily crack. This one separates each shell without crushing them, while this one cushions each bag with air to keep the cookies from chipping. Air from a tiny tube blows out any that are stuck together, keeping them from being packaged in one bag. Employees dump and sort the discarded cookies here, tossing out the overly chipped ones. Wonton Food says it created this type of packaging in 1988 to help keep cookies fresh.
Originally, cookies just came in a cardboard box with no additional wrapping. Every single time a customer comes in, they got to take one out. They just leave the bag open, and then the cookies, they start losing that crunchy texture.
Next, cookies are packaged, pressed, stamped, wrapped, and shipped off to restaurants and supermarkets across the globe. Until 2017, one of the employees, Donald Lau, wrote all of the fortunes himself, but he retired when writer's block finally caught up with him. A small team of staff still keeps the tradition alive.
Will you ever have AI write fortunes? I'm so sorry.
No. I don't want to do anything that would dilute it, make it less meaningful, degrade its standing in people's eyes.
In 1995, Wonton started adding lucky numbers to its fortunes.
Before computers and random number generators, we would just draw them out of a golden bowl.
Over the decades, Americans have won millions by playing Wonton fortune numbers in actual lotteries. Like in 2005, when more than 100 lottery winners won up to $500,000 each.
There was reporters everywhere, and we had to do a press conference. It was quite a moment.
In 2010, the Chinese population in the US was nearly 5 times larger than it was in 1980. By 2016, major restaurant chains from China, including Happy Lamb Hot Pot and Haidi Lao, had begun expanding across the US. As new Chinese dishes gained popularity, restaurant owners began pushing back on stereotypes that framed their cuisine as cheap or unhealthy.
China has become an economic power, so a lot of new regional cuisines and more expensive restaurants have arrived in the US.
所以我认为是现在非常好的来传播这样的中国文化和美食。
Yan Zheng is a CEO of Transit America, the U.S. branch of China's most famous Peking duck restaurant. Transit opened its first North American location in Vancouver in 2020 and earned a Michelin star 2 years later.
我真的是就是热泪盈眶的那种感觉，因为米其林确实是在全世界来说，它是像餐饮界的奥斯卡一样。
Fueled by the restaurant's Michelin success, Zheng decided to make the leap to New York City. With consumer spending in China at some of its weakest levels in years, more food chains like this are turning to overseas markets to stay afloat.
一直坚信，美食是相通的，美食是无国界的，美好的东西、好吃的东西，大家都是会喜欢的。
Peking duck takes multiple days to make and is one of the hardest foods in Chinese cuisine to cook properly.
You need to practice every day, progress every day.
Howie Wong is a sous chef at Transit and trains new chefs on how to make the dish. Skin thickness and tiny scratches can change the meat's juiciness, so each duck is inspected and cleaned before it's hung to dry. Traditionally, the duck is hooked by its neck, but that method is tough for beginners. If the hook is slightly off, juices leak out. So the workers cut off the head and hook it lower. They boil and glaze it, which helps the skin get its perfectly light, crisp, and non-greasy texture. Transida's Peking duck isn't marinated. The flavor comes from the dipping sauce.
If the duck have flavor, or the salt, or the pepper, or anything spicy, I won't say it's a traditional Chinese Peking duck.
Next, they let it sit until the skin is dry and ready to be cooked. Any small error during the prep can stop the duck's skin from crisping properly, or the meat from staying juicy. The duck needs roughly an hour in the oven, so getting it ready for exactly when a customer shows up isn't easy.
中餐一定要趁热吃，味道才会是最好。
Once it's done cooking, Howie torches it, the final step to getting that perfect texture. Just one of these ducks costs $128.
我们生活在北美这么多年，没有看到真正的北京烤鸭。
With dishes like lamb and honey, smoked fish and plum sauce, and Peking duck, Yan wants to help change the narrative of what Chinese food is and can be.
Someone asked me if I had a fortune cookie for them. And then I'm like, not here.
William Wu started working for Transit in 2020.
What I found is that the Western guests still have limited knowledge to what Chinese people eat. They still think about what they would order at Panda Express. The heavily battered pork with like a really colorful or really dark sweet sauce.
But Transit still makes minor tweaks to accommodate its customers here in the US. For example, the menu doesn't include pork.
那么我们希望，因为美国人很喜欢吃牛肉，很喜欢吃羊肉。
Since opening its New York location, duck orders are up 30%. Even as authentic Chinese cuisine gains momentum, restaurateurs and food critics say Americanized dishes still have a rightful place on the table too.
A lot of people say it's the fake Chinese, but you can still recognize the Chineseness. So that really opened the way for people to embrace newer kinds of cuisines from China.
But running any kind of Chinese restaurant in the US still has its challenges. Americans still haven't fully embraced some traditional ingredients like MSG. Since the 1960s, false rumors have spread that it causes adverse health effects like cancer and brain damage.
It's blown totally out of proportion. Prejudice against Chinese food has become embedded. When society needs a scapegoat, for example, during the pandemic, Chinese often became a target.
One study found that in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Asian restaurants lost $7.4 billion in revenue because of anti-Chinese sentiment. And rising political tensions between the US and China and tariff disputes have added more pressure.
Chinese Americans are sandwiched in between. A lot of Chinese Americans have said to me that we are being marginalized.
Still, Chinese restaurants carry on, preserving traditions that have endured for generations.
I want to knock down every Chinese restaurant in America just to say thank you for, being a part of my world, understanding my struggles every day. Chinese food is in demand right now because people are slowly understanding that this is high quality food, good food, tasteful food, and they will be sick of eating, French fries and chicken nuggets.
Every night while New York City sleeps, a hidden bakery in the Bronx cranks out tens of thousands of donuts from scratch.
It's like a lot of flour flying everywhere.
Before sunrise, more than 100 breakfast cart owners swarm Pandora Bakery for fresh pastries. They're a small part of New York City's 20,000 mobile food vendors.
They're like the OG Grubhub and Seamless.
But running a business on wheels has never been tougher for the city's vendors, 96% of whom are immigrants.
They don't really understand what we got to deal with in order to get here to be convenient for them. Brother, have an amazing day. Good weekend.
For starters, it's a full-time grind.
I got to give my kids 20% of my battery, and then I give everybody else 80% of my battery.
Food cart permits are in such short supply that some vendors spend up to $25,000 to rent one on the black market.
My dad was on a wait list for almost 17 years.
This system has turned New York City's street food scene into a high-stakes gamble.
It's a very shady system. A lot of people have been scammed recently.
All of this has made street food more expensive, prompting Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani to campaign on lowering prices.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day one to make halal $8 again.
So how does one pastry factory supply hundreds of carts? And why does New York City have so many food vendors, but so few legal permits? Pandora Bakery runs 24/7. It supplies food carts, restaurants, and hotels across New York with breads, muffins, apple turnovers, and donuts. The morning shift starts at 6 a.m., and they have until sundown to make thousands of pastries.
This is the dough, the mixer. We're making our own dough here.
Konstantinos Kotsias founded the bakery in 1989. He keeps a close eye on the dough mix because the recipe changes daily based on the weather.
When it's cold, you put more water. Today is a very easy day to make donuts.
Just 15 bakers keep this kitchen turning out dough day and night.
It takes at least 5 years for a baker to learn how to do the donuts the right way.
Some of the best bakers, like Hugo and Julio, have been around for about 20 years. But Konstantinos beats them all. He's been working with pastries for 46 years. He moved to the US from Greece in 1978, built his own push cart from scratch, and started selling donuts and coffee out of it to earn a living.
It was the best job I ever did. I go there at 4 o'clock in the morning. We pack up and leave by 11:30 with the bags full of money.
Business was so good, he built 12 carts by 1990 and hired 20 employees to run them. In 1997, he opened this central food commissary for the city's vendors. There are nearly 100 of these kitchens across New York City, tailored to different types of food, like breakfast, halal dishes, and nuts.
Supplying the pushkas, you could be in 100 locations at the same time.
Over the years, he's continued to expand his clientele to restaurants, hotels, and even the New York Police Department. Bakers slide trays of sliced dough onto a rack and roll them into the proofer to rise. After proofing the dough for roughly 30 minutes, bakers dunk the donuts into the fryer. Throughout the fillings, dipping, sprinkling, and powdering. Bakers keep a close eye on the temperature.
Too hot makes the frosting like melt off the donut.
Georgios Michailidis is the general manager of Pandora Bakery.
Too cold makes the dough like tougher to eat.
That's why they use fans instead of AC. Finally, workers assemble the donuts for pickup. Most of Constantino's customers have been buying from him for over a decade. So Pandora knows their orders by heart.
There is no invoices laying on the boxes, so they know these orders inside their heads.
Workers stack the leftover donuts on this rack and sell them to commuters for $1 each.
I get a dozen small ones.
Mark Taylor works at a nearby hospital and stopped in to grab one before his shift.
This is arguably the best donut in New York City. They come at 10 o'clock in the morning and they're fresh up out of the grease and they are amazing.
Starting at 1 a.m., food cart vendors pull up to Pandora to stock up for the day.
It's a lot of work. You have to set up in the morning. Somebody has to move the truck.
Natty Gonzalez gets up at 3:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, so she can set up before the breakfast rush starts at 6. 3 dozen pastries are already waiting for her. She also picks up some extra ingredients, like flour and oil, for her freshly cooked breakfast items. Natty pays wholesale prices, 60 cents per medium donut, and sells them for $1.75. She sets up shop at Broadway and 87th on the west side of Manhattan.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
A spot she's held for a year. She immigrated from Mexico in 2002 and spent years at jobs that kept her on her feet, leading to back pain.
Now I can sit here, I have my chair here, I can sit, or we play music or whatever we want to do here, but it's our business.
She paid $31,000 to take over this cart, after learning the vendor in the spot was retiring. Natty runs it with her friend Carmen Flores, who she used to work with at a cafeteria. Together they created the menu and came up with the name for their cart, Las Reinas del Sabor, the Queens of Flavor. Queens because they run it together.
I enjoy to cook it, she enjoys to make the coffee. Some days we're happy, some days we're angry, but still together. So.
And flavor because that's what Natty says separates her from the competition. Around 10 a.m., Natty starts heating things up while Carmen prepares the salsa packets before the afternoon rush starts around noon. On good days, Natty and Carmen can make $1,200, but they spend over half their income on expenses like cart storage, cleaning, and ingredients.
We sacrifice a lot. We're coming back to the house, we're coming late, tired, we don't want to do anything.
For more than a century, food carts have helped New York City's immigrants start small businesses of their own. In the 1800s, millions of immigrants poured into New York City, many of them without money or job prospects.
These immigrant groups, especially Eastern European Jews, have a history of peddling in the old country because of the anti-Semitic laws that made it difficult for Jews to work in different professions.
That's Catherine Piccoli, who works at the New York City's Museum of Food and Drink.
There was a real interest in this profession because you could make your own hours.
Pineapple, grapefruit, orange, tomato.
A push cart offered a way to survive. It was cheap to buy, portable, and required no rent. By the end of the 1800s, around 5,000 New Yorkers were operating push carts. They sold grocery items like fruit, pickles, and fish, mostly to their own communities.
You're walking the streets trying to sell your wares. So you have this really heavy wooden cart that you're balancing and walking around.
But New York's narrow streets were getting packed, so city officials started to intervene. In the late 1800s, the city began requiring vendors to carry a license to legally sell food on the streets.
To sort of count them, understand the work, be able to regulate the work, because so much of it was unregulated.
Fiorello H. LaGuardia, do solemnly swear.
In 1934, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia took office and launched a sweeping crackdown to clear vendors from the street. He called food carts antiquated and unclean.
He's looking to, quote, modernize New York City. Part of this is because the World's Fair is going to be held in New York City in 1939.
One of his solutions was to open 10 indoor markets and move vendors inside.
Public markets that we still use today and love, like Essex Market, were part of this program that he started.
But the indoor markets had more rules than the streets.
A big one being that you had to be an American citizen. You couldn't hawk, you couldn't cry. Many street food vendors at the time had signature cries or calls to announce themselves, their location, what they were selling. The street cries of the food vendors would have been in many different languages, so outlawing them in the public markets is also a way of Americanizing people and saying, you know, we can't have different languages here.
The markets had limited space and required a stall fee, so many street vendors were pushed out of the trade. By the time LaGuardia ended his term, there were only 1,200 people selling food on the street, a 92% drop from before he took office.
Pretty immediately, you have people across the city saying, you know, we're really nostalgic for selling food on the street because it really defines New York City.
The 1965 Hart-Celler Act opened U.S. immigration to regions beyond Europe, including Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Like the Jewish and Italian immigrants before them, many of these newcomers started with food carts, one of the most accessible ways to build a business. The diversity of New York City's food carts exploded too.
We see the shift begin to happen where most foods sold on the street are meant to be eaten on the street. There are hot dogs, there are halal plates.
The stainless steel food carts we're familiar with today grew in popularity, offering more space and appliances to cook with. By the 1980s, there were about 12,000 carts, nearly as many as there had been in the 30s before Mayor LaGuardia's crackdown. Businesses and pedestrians complained that streets were getting overcrowded again. In 1983, Mayor Ed Koch imposed another limit, a cap of 3,000 permits certifying that a cart was legal. In 2021, the city agreed to raise the cap to nearly 7,500 permits over 7 years. But that's still not enough to meet demand for the city's 20,000 mobile food vendors.
Any food vendor to operate in a lawful way, they are usually required to have two documentations on them. One is a food vendor license, that's for the individual themselves, and there is also a food vending permit that goes on the cart or the truck they are selling from.
Mohammed Atsi is the head of the Street Vendor Project, a nonprofit advocating for street vendors' rights.
The food vendor license is not a problem. It's very accessible. The biggest problem that we have is the food vending permit. People have been waiting 20 years, 25 years. There were actually more than 10,000 names on that wait list. So right now, as we speak, the waiting list is closed.
To avoid the wait list, many vendors pay to rent a permit from someone who already has one, even if it means paying a higher price.
A permit that costs $200 to obtain from the city and renew every 2 years will cost the vendor up to $25,000 in this underground market. This is what's happening with vast majority of food carts and food trucks we see here in New York City.
Some vendors caught in the system say they feel trapped by the high costs.
It's a big loop. And the more I'm in here, the more I realize that I got stuck.
P.D. Stathopoulos has been working in food carts since 2013, when he was 18 years old.
My grandpa started the hot dog cart business in like the 70s to 80s in Central Park. And then slowly my dad trickled into it.
In 2023, P.D. met a cart owner who was retiring and let him take over the permit.
Thank God the guy was really nice, and he only charged me like $8,000.
P.D. paid another $35,000 for the cart and this spot on 32nd and Park Avenue.
It is like an imaginary logbook. You don't really go where other people are making money because now you're being a leech. Now you're taking money off their plate.
Even in prime locations, office attendance in New York City remains well below pre-pandemic levels, shrinking the morning rush of customers. P.D. is also facing rising food and storage costs and growing competition.
Fast food, DoorDash, you just pick up the crumbs to survive.
Soaring costs have forced vendors to raise prices, a trend Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani called halalflation during his campaign.
I lost half of my customer base when I raised my prices a quarter. Just one quarter.
And because permits have to be renewed every 2 years, PD has to pay up all over again.
You just worked all year to save up some money, and then you got to give this guy another $8,000 just to be able to work again.
But some pay even more for a permit, only to get scammed.
So if someone, say Sam, can rent me their permit and I can use it on my card, there is no contract between me and Sam. Basically, Sam is taking the cash under the table. The problem with that system is that there is a lot of exploitation that happens because Sam knows how much I need them.
Vendors still pay because getting caught without a permit can lead to criminal charges and jeopardize their immigration status.
They can confiscate your property, all the food on the cart, everything that you have.
The NYPD has issued 918 criminal tickets for vending through July 15th, 2025, up 16% from the previous year. And even with a permit, vendors still face risks.
There are so many rules that you have to follow as a food vendor. In New York City, you cannot be in a bus stop, you cannot be on a taxi stand, you have to be 20 feet away from every building entrance, you have to be very close to the curb, like literally 18 inches. We have the health department, the sanitation police, the NYPD, all these different agencies can actually come to your business, perform an inspection, they can arrest you, they can give you a ticket, they can give you a $1,000 fine.
As federal immigration raids increase nationwide, many vendors are afraid to risk working on the streets. The ones still operating say the pressure is wearing them down.
Y no solamente stickers, es la persecución, el estrés. Me he enfermado de la presión y tengo que tomar pastillas todos los días.
Since December 2023, food vendors have taken to the streets, urging the City Council to pass 4 reform bills. In 2025, the City Council passed one of the proposed bills, ending criminal penalties for licensed vendors and reducing them for unlicensed ones. Vendors are still pushing for the rest of the package, which would create thousands of new permits and make it easier for vendors to get training and support.
What are we waiting for? How many vendors are we waiting for them to be deported, for the council to wake up and start doing something?
A New York City Council spokesperson told Business Insider that reforming the street vendor system is complicated, and they're trying to balance the needs of vendors, small businesses, and neighborhoods while avoiding harsh enforcement. The New York City Health Department states that there's no delay in issuing mobile food vendor licenses or permits, and that it has released all applications it is legally required to. It also says inspectors regularly check the permitted street carts and trucks to promote food safety. With a new mayor taking the stage, New York City's street food and the people who built their lives around it enter a new chapter, with vendors watching closely.
Merecemos respeto, somos trabajadores esenciales de esta ciudad. Detrás de cada uno de los comerciantes no está un carrito de tamales, está la responsabilidad de la familia.
The fluffy, wobbly Japanese cheesecake has taken the world by storm in the past couple years. You've never had one quite like this. Uncle Tetsu's has been selling this signature dessert in Japan for over 30 years. People have been lining the streets of Times Square to get a taste at its first East Coast storefront.
I saw it on social media and I work a few blocks away. So I passed them when they first opened and it's like a huge line. Yeah. Waited a few days and I was like, I have to try it. So I did it. It's really good.
Uncle Tetsu first opened up shop in 1985 in Japan, selling jiggly, airy, fluffy Japanese cheesecakes, and since then has sought to take over the world, opening up shops in China, Pakistan, Canada, and they are finally available right here on the American East Coast. And of course, the first shop that they opened up was right here in Times Square, so naturally, I had to go check it out. Now, Uncle Tetsu isn't the first soufflé cheesecake in the game. The concept has been around since the 70s in Japan, and in New York alone, there are more than a few bakeries dishing out wobbly cheesecakes. But with about 75 shops across Asia, Uncle Tetsu's is a household name overseas. With an airy structure that melts in your mouth like cotton candy, these desserts make for insta-gold. Just look at that jiggle.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's all completed with the signature touch.
This is Uncle Tetsu's face. Uncle Tetsu actually looks like this.
I think Uncle Tetsu became such a global phenomenon because no matter where you go, people love sweets. Every culture loves sweets. Uncle Tetsu's dream was to always open in New York. Since New York is known for New York-style cheesecake, he's teaching people and allowing them to understand that Uncle Tetsu Japanese cheesecake is not as dense and heavy. It's kind of a fun, whimsical type of feeling that brings out your inner childhood even as an adult.
I always wanted to try the Japanese cheesecake that everyone's raving about, so I decided to come by and have you go, you head home.
What about it drew you in?
Everything, the videos of how they make it, the fluffiness.
What are you most excited about?
Trying the first bite.
A mix of perfectly fluffy meringue and a traditional sour cheesecake, and Uncle Tetsu's cheesecake begins with 30 eggs whipped to stiff peak in a giant mixing bowl. Then the chef gets to making the cheesecake base: butter, cream cheese, and milk. The chef puts on gloves that reach all the way up to his shoulders in order to fold the batter by hand. After ladling the mixture into lined cheesecake tins, the cheesecakes are popped into the super high-tech ovens Uncle Tetsu had imported from Japan for precision baking, ensuring perfection with every single batch. They're packed up right out of the oven, but not before each cake is carefully branded with the seal of approval, the jolly uncle himself smiling back at you.
Uncle Tetsu cheesecake is the best cheesecake because it's not too heavy, it's not too light. It's perfect balance in the cheesecake.
Yeah. It's so light. It's so fluffy. Tastes like a cloud.
This feels crazy. Like, it's like stable, but it also feels like it's going to die in my hands. I'm like afraid to hold this. It's so... It's like nothing I've ever held before. It's like, oh! I'm gonna put this down now. It's like dessert and like a toy all in one. My hands are covered in it, but I'm like also having fun. It's very strange. Is it weird if I just eat this like this? No? Okay.
It's the only way to do it.
Okay. Stop it. Stop it. You don't have to chew that. It just like, you don't have to chew this at all. It just disintegrates in your mouth. Oh, this is good. It's the airiest thing that I've ever eaten. This is wild. It's so light and squishy.
This is the oldest chocolate house in New York City. Exactly 100 years ago, Lilac Chocolates began serving this butter crunch, created by its Greek immigrant founder. Today, it's run by another immigrant who's kept many of the original recipes.
Before working at Lilac, I didn't even know what chocolate is.
Anwar Koder oversees the production of over 175,000 pounds of chocolate a year, and he still manages to keep it handmade and fresh. New York City was a major chocolate hub back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with big brands setting up their headquarters here. But many closed their doors in the wake of the Great Depression, or were sold to other companies. Lilac has managed to survive, despite going through several different owners and even having to relocate as rents soared. Its secret? Maintaining tradition, from its vintage molds to its tools, and most importantly, the recipes.
That's why we have a very loyal customer base. They know what's going on. They know who we are.
We visited the Artisan Chocolatier to see how this New York institution is still standing. At 8 in the morning, a sweet smell fills up Lilac's Brooklyn factory. In different corners, you'll see mesmerizing waterfalls of milk, dark, and white chocolate. The company prides itself on making its confections largely by hand and in small batches. That includes the founder's famous butter crunch, made the same way it was a century ago. It starts with sugar. Anwar still uses a scale that's been with the factory since day one.
The scale itself is over 120 years old. I know even the numbers are gone. faded, but I know where exactly, put it. I'm still using it.
After working here for 34 years, he knows most of these measurements by heart.
And this is what cooking is. It doesn't have to be like really precise. It's just the experience.
He hand scoops tapioca syrup into the mixer. This is one ingredient Anwar updated over the years. Originally, the recipe included corn syrup, but Anwar says he's now opting for healthier alternatives. He heats it all up so it turns brittle, then adds roughly 15 pounds of butter.
The cooked butter is just, it just penetrates you, it's in your head.
To give it a crunchy bite, he adds 3.5 pounds of chopped almonds. This layer of butter creates a non-stick surface on the marble table, the same one the founder worked with a century ago.
The marble tables are a part of the heritage in this company. They are been here since 1923.
The marble cools down the sticky mixture while keeping it soft enough to shape.
One of the very old tools we still use it to score all the candy.
Anwar and his team only have about 15 minutes to spread and cut the candy before it hardens. One batch can make 1,500 toffee squares. They shred fresh almonds into a mountain of dust and coat the candy in milk chocolate before mixing it into the almond powder. Throughout the day, Anwar moves around the factory, overseeing the chocolate production line.
Champagne? Okay, finish champagne. Okay, doing that.
He says he's memorized most of the company's 120 plus recipes, and about 65 of them made it into a recipe book that Anwar keeps in a safe.
The recipes was passed, through employees, basically, and that's how it survived. We always talk about the original recipe. All of it in here. It's in pieces. They're not all together, Now I have them all on the computer.
Anwar also added a few of his own recipes, like for peanut butter cups and salted caramels. But 34 years ago, he didn't even imagine he would be running a chocolate factory.
I wasn't like a chocolate fan, basically, to be honest. Of course, like a little, but I wasn't a chocolate fan.
He moved to the United States from Lebanon to study computer programming when he was just 24 years old. But he had to drop out after his first year because his family back home couldn't afford the tuition fees.
I started looking for a job, part-time job, for pocket money.
He eventually landed one with Lilac just before Christmas of 1989.
I fell in love with the work itself from day one. I just loved it and picked it up right away.
Anwar looked for opportunities to make things more efficient at the factory. In 2 years, he was promoted to Master Chocolatier and has been doing the job ever since.
I was running the company, it's like my own company, even though I was just an employee there.
As technology advanced, the company had to adopt to some modern machinery to help ease production. Before, chocolatiers would hand dip every piece. But today, Lilac uses an enrobing machine that can coat 1,000 truffles with chocolate in 1 hour.
If any piece required some designs on it, if the design is made right here, and it goes through a cooling tunnel, and it comes out the other side ready to pack.
One of the factory's rules is to never freeze its products.
That's when you lose your quality. We are very well known for freshness. We make small batches.
These tempering machines heat, cool, and mix the chocolate. Without them, the chocolate may look dull and feel crumbly. Employees fill up Lilac's specialty molds. And there are about 1,000 of them, including ones shaped like Easter bunnies, pizza, and soccer balls. Anwar has some that are older than the factory itself. These metal molds were made in the late 1800s.
This is actually an antique mold. As you see, it's a metal mold. The images on it, that no one makes them anymore. I mean, they are very rare to find.
And his collection just keeps growing.
Lamborghini, a Mercedes, a Porsche. It's all like from the 60s, very worst. Favorite? I like the Bentley, the old one, the Bentley. This comes like this, you see. Comes like this. Even the tires, it's a lot of work, you can do it.
Anwar never says no to a custom order, no matter how challenging it may be.
Even if I don't have the mold, I would purchase it. So we're just adding to our existing molds.
This giant turkey mold is almost 30 years old. Anwar bought it to use as a window display on Thanksgiving week. A customer saw it and ordered 15 chocolate turkeys a day before the holiday. Anwar said yes, knowing what it would mean.
I didn't go home that night. I spent all night making turkeys for him and got it ready by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Chocolate took off in the United States in the 19th century, when it became faster to make it using machines. Many iconic brands like Maillard's, Runkle Brothers, and Hyler's opened large chocolate factories in New York City in the late 1800s. Lilac was established in 1923 by George Demetrius, a Greek immigrant. But that era of growth would come to an end as the Great Depression loomed. Lilac managed to survive, but it hasn't been easy. Ever-rising rent prices have threatened the business for decades. While Lilac's shop stayed in the city, Anwar moved the entire production to its first Brooklyn factory starting Easter week of 2005.
The busiest week of the year. I moved the factory in 2 days.
Finding stable leadership has been a challenge too. The company has had 7 different owners since Demetrius died in 1972. Anwar's dedication to Lilac paid off when he became part owner in 2011. Today, he runs the business with Anthony Cerrone and a third owner, Christopher Taylor.
When Anthony came and he had in mind, if you want to grow the company, the only condition I have with him is I don't want to change the way we make chocolate. And this was fine. He was fine with that. We both agreed you never touched the recipes of an old school company. That's just something you don't do.
Since they began their partnership, Lilac has expanded from 2 New York shops to 6. But as the company continues to grow, quality and tradition remain their priorities.
We sell something that's 100 years old, and people, there's a whole nostalgia to chocolate. You have to know what your traditions are. We all agreed at the same time you had to keep the packaging and the brand fresh.
They make their chocolate in this roughly 9,000 square foot factory in Brooklyn's Industry City. Passers-by can peek through the glass window to see how chocolate is made. Anwar says Lilac does not make extra chocolate stock, use preservatives, or freeze its chocolate to sell later. So during its busiest occasions, like Valentine's Day and Easter, the team works to fill orders and keep its shelves stocked.
You buy things, 1 day old, made 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
They also started selling chocolates online and shipping abroad. But everything came to a halt in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic forced Lilac to close its doors right before Easter.
We really had a tough time during the pandemic. Employees went home and no one was working.
What Anwar wasn't expecting was that soon after, online sales would actually soar.
For some reason, people go to chocolate, maybe make them feel better, make them, feel happier, for some reason. We were only a few people here, and orders starts coming. 300, 400, 500 orders a day, and we don't have them freezed. to keep up with it. But we work long hours, 7 days a week. We survived. That's what made Lilac survive the pandemic.
Anwar's vision is to make lilac chocolates the best, not just in the city, but beyond.
I would like to see the company as like #1 chocolate company in the United States. Just to say, what the #1 chocolate company is Lilac Chocolate.
This is just a fraction of the 140,000 pizzas Grimaldi's makes every year. For the past 30 years, the Brooklyn-based pizzeria has stuck to classic recipes and kept a veteran team of pizzaiolos. Today, you'll find kitchen manager Tony Flugel and his team of pizzaiolos hand-stretching 500 pies a day, slicing 200 pounds of fresh mozzarella, and working a 1,000-degree oven.
It's a series of marathons for us because we have to make sure that we're prepared for the next shift, the next day, the next week to keep up with the demand at the door.
We visited Grimaldi's flagship pizzeria in Brooklyn, New York to see how he makes these pies in such big batches. At 9 in the morning, Tony and his team get started making a 33-year-old dough recipe. The mixer is loaded with olive oil, New York City tap water, activated yeast, and 50 pounds of high-gluten flour.
So we have it preset for 5 minutes. It's on a low spin cycle, okay? And what we do is we sprinkle salt on top of our flour. Five minutes later, we have our famous dough recipe.
Once mixed, the dough needs to be cut, weighed, and shaped into balls within 30 minutes so it doesn't rise. For this, Tony relies on the most experienced pizzaiolos at Grimaldi's.
They're cutting each and everything to the same size every day. It's almost like muscle memory at this point where the scale's not even needed. They know what they're doing, and it's almost like a healthy competition down here to race. Like, let's go, come on, keep up with me, I'm rolling. You gotta cut faster, let's go.
Another skill that's hard to master is rolling the perfect dough ball.
So we're rolling the dough and we're making sure that it's a smooth outer layer as well as making sure that there's no air inside. So for example, if you're rolling it and you're just gonna meatball it and you're just gonna put it like this down, it's gonna rise and it's gonna thin out the middle. And then the pizza, when you pick it up, that's when it flops down. So Grimaldi is known for a nice hard layer crust that is the texture. It's the base. It's the most important thing to the pizza. It's, the foundation to the house. No foundation, no pizza.
This batch of dough is enough to make 65 to 75 pizzas, which is just a fraction of what will be needed for the day. Once all of the trays are filled, they're taken across the hall to these fridges.
So this is only the dough that was made last night, okay? So this is getting ready for our first few hours in Grimaldi's, and then we'll start fresh, probably go through the first batch that we made today, and then as well as another 8 or 9 for the night shift.
In 2011, Grimaldi's moved into its current location. The double-story Palazzo building at number 1 Front Street was originally built to be Brooklyn's first safety deposit company. Now, Grimaldi's fridges sit in the same place as the old vaults.
So I think that's really cool that we made them into our own vaults. So basically it protects our gold, and this is our gold right here.
Next, it's time to make the sauce. Large cans of San Marzano tomatoes are poured into buckets, topped with sugar, and blended.
For us, we use a 1-day shelf life, so we're just trying to keep it marinating for a few hours, if not a full day, and it's going right into our pizza. So we like to keep it as fresh as possible. It's nice, thick, and imported tomatoes.
Grimaldi's goes through about 700 quarts of tomatoes every week, or roughly 662.4 liters. Upstairs, 200 mozzarella balls are cut into thin strips, a process that's gone unchanged since opening.
The Grimaldi's cheese is very special. It's made only for Grimaldi's, so nowhere else in the world can get our flavor profile that we're doing on our mozzarella. It is a low moisture, low sodium, UV dried fresh mozzarella, so it can withstand the high intense heat of our oven and be cooked and melt to perfection in a short amount of time.
By the end of the week, Grimaldi's will hand slice around 2,000 pounds of mozzarella. An hour before opening, Grimaldi's restocks its coal so they can relight the oven.
Okay, so right now he's throwing 40-pound bags of anthracite coal into the bottom of our oven chute right over here. So we keep about anywhere from 10 to 12 bags down there at a time. And what we're doing is for at least a day or more, we try and dry out our coal to make sure that it's burning a little cleaner, easier. It's not popping from the inside, you know, on top of pizzas, etc. as it starts to heat up. It makes our stoking process and our oven heat up a little bit quicker too.
The pizzeria keeps embers in the brick oven overnight, so it stays warm.
So right now we have a grate inside of our oven. It's holding our coal up, but he's right now flipping it and getting rid of all the old coal. The reason why we don't clean it out at nighttime because we want to make sure that it stays warm overnight because it's going to take too many hours to heat up our floor.
When the charcoal ignites, the team begins shoveling 200 pounds of coal into the side of the oven. Compared to wood, anthracite coal burns longer, hotter, and with less smoke.
You can't get a gas oven or a wood oven up to 1,000 degrees the way we can. So we're able to get a different, not only flavor profile from the coal, but we're also getting a different profile from the heat and intensity that pizza is going under.
When the doors open at 11:30 a.m., it's all hands on deck to fill orders. To be an official Grimaldi's pie, it needs to be made a certain way. Unlike most pizzerias, Grimaldi's built its pizza cheese first. Slices of mozzarella are evenly placed around the dough, and the gaps are then filled with sauce.
So when it melts together, you're seeing a little bit of both, but you're also getting a bite of not too much sauce, not too much cheese. So that's what we're looking for with Grimaldi's.
Specialty toppings range from hand-pinched Italian sausage to thinly sliced prosciutto and artichokes. And most pies are finished off with a sprinkling of the Grimaldi's Romano blend, extra virgin olive oil, and a few pieces of fresh basil. To help streamline the cooking process, Grimaldi's uses a two-shelf system.
So we have a pre-stretch and then a stretching and cheese section on this side. We're pre-stretching cheese in, throwing them on the first shelf right here. Everyone standing on this side is a topper, so that means they're putting on the toppings and the sauce on, they're finishing it off with the olive oil, the basil, and then finishing it off by putting it on the top shelf. The top shelf is so the oven guy knows that they're ready to go in the oven.
Working a coal oven takes years of experience to master. From memorizing cook times to keeping a consistent heat, it's not easy to make a perfect pie.
So what we're doing is we're loading them in, we're closing the door right away, we're giving it a pop of heat to the bottom of the pizza so we can actually move it around without ripping it or anything like that. What's rare about Brooklyn is that we use this copper stick right here. You know, it's very important with this high heat. If you're using a wooden stick, they're just breaking and wearing and tearing and drying out non-stop, especially when you're picking up a heavy pizza. So you can see it's only been about 60 seconds and they're already rising up. So basically I'm making sure that I can pick them up, give them a small spin, and then I'm actually just moving them into position right here.
The high heat means that the pizzas only need a few minutes to cook. Water in the dough evaporates quickly, creating air bubbles and leaving behind a light, airy texture in the crust, while charcoal gives the pizza a charred, slightly smoky flavor and a crunchy texture. Outside, people begin queuing and waiting up to an hour to get a table. And 16 minutes after opening, the first and third stories of the restaurant are practically full. On the dining floor, you'll find servers with over 20 years of experience and a good sense of humor.
Oh, mommy, I'm hungry. Boom. You got it, Papa.
While Grimaldi's has an established clientele, a vast majority of its business comes from tour groups. Since 2005, Tony Muya, who runs pizza tours, has been coming to showcase Grimaldi's pizza.
So if I can describe Grimaldi's in 3 words, it would probably be
legendary, authentic, and beloved, because people love Grimaldi's.
The key to making a great pizza is passion. It's love. You take dough, cheese, or sauce by itself, it's just simple objects. But when you're building a pizza, it's a piece of art. So for us, and for myself, it's the passion and love I put into every pizza that makes it special.